All right, and we are live with SEO Collective. Welcome everybody to our April meetup. Woo, 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 woo. All right, thank you so much for coming. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you here all today. And I would like to just say like a really, really quick shout out. Thank you so much to Easy Go Gaming for hosting us. Whoop, whoop. And of course, thank you so much to our wonderful collective of board members who made this all possible. So I'm joined here with the wonderful Peter Mead. You guys might know him. You might have seen his face or a name around the traps. He is quite literally the godfather of SEO here in Australia. And I can say that because there's literally a plaque with that as its title. So, woo, Peter Mead, guys. Woo, woo, woo.
Thank you. Yeah, it's more to do with the way I walk, I think. But definitely, it's great to see everyone here. And you know, I'm in such good company with people like, you know, Nik Ranger and all the rest of you folks. We see a lot of you all the time and new people. So it's really great to see everyone.
Whoop. And I would also like to shout out Mr. Dan Wild for putting all of this together. This is going to run a lot more smoothly. And for anyone who is watching, who is tuning in here live with us right now, the audio quality and the video quality is thanks to him. So massive shout out, dude. Couldn't have done it without you. Whoop, whoop. All right. So we'll just do a little bit of housekeeping just so that we can all say hello, get introduced to one another. It is like a nice little intimate space in here, but there is a lot of you. So quick run through with the agenda. Before I do that, I just want to acknowledge that we are on stolen lands. This is the First Nations people of the Kulin Nation. And I just want to pay respects to Aboriginal elders, past, present, and future, of course. So that being said, a little bit of an agenda. So, of course, we're going to just start out, do this, and then we're going to go straight into, after this, SEO news. Now, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in the last month, of course, a lot of changes, a lot of updates, and we're really, really lucky that all of us on the board are like, you know, we're on the tools. You know, we're professionals. We see this stuff on our day-to-day. So just in terms of like how to think about this, like how to sort of like combat this, we might just do a little bit of a think tank just on a couple of really, really bigger pieces, just so that anyone in the audience who's like, that's a thing, just to help you guys out. And it's also really, really great for any of you guys out there considering getting into SEO, that it's just the best job in the world. So,
I'll bring the mic over when you got questions.
Yep. Questions, of course, will be after Matt Singh, just a little heads up. So we are also very, very honored to be having Matt Hodgson from SimilarWeb here with us to share his insights. Woo, 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 woo.
Former SimilarWeb, and now is the founder of Bring Digital. So, yeah.
Mate, you're breaking out. Oh, more war stories. I can't wait to get into it. Honestly, 25 years of experience, right? Yep. Man, you would have seen some shit. Oh, amazing.
You might have to debate about that one.
I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. And of course, if you do have any questions and things like that for Matt, keep all of your burning questions just right in your top pocket, because we will be going out and asking some questions and things like that after his presentation, just because it's a lot better for the flow and things like that. So a little bit of a heads up, ask your questions. Alrighty. And of course, at the end of that, we will be doing a networking. Please get into the beer. Please get into the pizza. This is a self-funded at the moment SEO Collective. We are taking sponsorships just as an FYI, because we love what we do. This is a non-profit and we are here basically because we want to be the difference. We want to be able to share our insights and be able to give really, really good qualified information out there, basically because we give a shit. Point blank. So it would be really, really awesome to be able to do that at scale, of course. Also, again, just because we're still on the housekeeping thing, if you are watching here live, please hit that notification bell, hit like, hit subscribe for any updates and any videos. We are always on the first Tuesday of every month. Oh, we don't have that yet. Awesome. For you people that are here in front of us looking so handsome and so delightful, for toilets and things like that, women's toilets are located on this level, just right outside the front door to your right. There is a code. The code is right there, or it is on the door as you're leaving. So that's a really, really good one for anyone needing to do that. Also for male toilets, it is on the level below us, on level 1. So indigestion, please take the elevator, or if you're feeling up to it, there is stairs and things like that, but it's on level 1. And again, the code is right there as well. Same place as a code on the door as you're leaving. Oh, yeah. All right. So without further ado, we're going to get into SEO news. And we have a very, very handsome gentleman up there that should be usually doing this segment, but Saijo George sends his regards and apologies. He is feeling unwell with the CVID. So, sending out a lot of love and a lot of well wishes to him and his family right now. But of course, we really wanted to keep this segment live and upgoing because it is such a great, vital thing that we always are knowing what's happening off the back foot so we can think about the front foot. All right. Okay, so there is a little bit to digest here, but I will kind of go through this just incrementally, and I will point to you, Peter, and I will point to other Peter and Dan as well, because again, all of us here in the board are on the tools. We look at this stuff and we have different specializations in different areas. All right, so Google is depreciating the Search Console URL parameters tool pretty much this month. Boo, right?
Bad news.
Dude, come on. I mean, like when you got question variant equals blah, 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 blah. It was really, really handy to be able to say to search engines, like, hey, these things we don't really want to be considered. Like, please just ignore those from the crawl so we can focus on the things that we want to. But they're not doing that, and like basically they're like, just use robots.txt, it's fine, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of annoying, but that's kind of like the big takeaway. I don't really have much more to add to that unless someone else does here, but it's just kind of a bit meh.
Well, I could just add that it actually was a really handy tool. Google did say they were going to update it and improve it. So that's why it was a bit of a shock to see they're going to close it. But check if, because previous consultants or previous agencies may have added a lot of things in there. And so when they close it, you could see fluctuations in your search results. And also Google automatically adds a lot of stuff in there as well. So you will probably going to want to go and check it for your clients and for your own sites.
That is a hot tip. Check that tool. Yes, question.
If you're removing the Search Console, right? Isn't this now an opportunity? Like if you're ahead of the game, you can actually go into the robot.txt file and actually do an arbitrage and use it as an opportunity where everyone else is like, oh, shit, there's the news.
I'm going to be the mic runner, guys. I'm going to run.
We do have you here, so that's the noises.
Okay, so my response to the robots.txt question is that they are fundamentally different tools. So the robots.txt is like a chainsaw, you can cut the tree down, right? Whereas the URL parameters tool is kind of like when you cut a branch, but you tie it up and then you try to grow it and try to fix it, right? So I actually used the URL parameters at this very job basically in my first month. It was one of the first things I configured. And the reason why is because there were certain URL parameters that I didn't want to block. And the reason why I didn't want to block is that there were very valuable external links using things like affiliate codes or various other forms of URL parameters. Now, these URL parameters are basically being indexed. And I didn't want them indexed, so I have two options. One, I can use the URL removals tool, which I can do. I can totally do that, but it's like either 1 by 1, or I can use a wildcard for certain folder structures. But the way our website's designed, that would actually not work for certain URLs. The URL parameters tool actually solved the problem. The reason why Google got rid of this tool is they said like 1% of 1% of people were using it. Well, I'm one of the 1% of 1%. And like I found
Anyone
it
who knows
incredibly
anything
useful.
is the one part of the 1%.
And like if you see it, it's part of the legacy tools format. And like what Peter said earlier is that Google promised for a long time that they'll update the tool. And those of us who went from Webmaster Tools to Google Search Console knows that virtually everything in Google Search Console used to be in Webmaster Tools, and it was like an old, outdated version. And what they should have done was improve this tool, make it more modern, and allow us to have some kind of control within Search Console to control things like URL parameters or certain URL patterns. And they have taken that away from us. And unfortunately, you're kind of not left, like if you don't want to block something in robust text, basically you want to keep it out of the index. So yeah, it sucks.
Mic drop.
I'm not going to drop the mic. It's expensive.
Yeah, it is very expensive. I think that's good on that. Next one. Google is rolling out March 22 product reviews update. So the third one. So I don't know about you guys, but I didn't see too much like fluctuations from the first two, but for the third one, like a lot of the word on Twitter is a lot of people seeing like lots of fluctuations and results and things like that. And all the recommendations from what Google has released is kind of like anything that they would release around a core update, even though it's not a core update, it's more of an update. Yeah.
Does anyone have affiliate websites that store anything?
Crickets.
Because like I know you said we can see everything.
No.
Previous two updates, but this update was actually really, really powerful because it affected directly affiliate websites. No, we're just swapping mics now. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so it just affected affiliate websites, so comparison websites, etc. So like it actually does affect it, but as agencies or most of us here, in-house people or agencies, it doesn't actually affect our clients that much, but it actually does affect the SERPs quite a bit.
100%. Ooh, I like this one better. It's a little bit louder. Oh, look at me. I want to be able to hear myself more. All right. So Google Search rolls out more visual search interface on mobile with grid formats above 10 blue links. I've seen a lot of this more on like American SERPs. Again, like a lot of the time when they're like, doing new things, like testing things like that, a lot of them will be affecting more of like those US sites. So I have quite a few sites that like I work on that are all US based. So again, these are things that like I always look for to be able to think like, okay, what is a kind of real estate that we can be able to take up in this SERP? So maybe I might look at this and look at this from like maybe let's look at like optimizing like the layout of this pictures, like let's like optimize the images, like let's add some structured data, all kinds of all the other really, really great things, having naming conventions on the alt text, etc., all kinds of things you can do. But again, it is really, really dependent on what Google's testing, but it's a really, really great opportunity for you guys if you have like a site that is based in the US or your company has like a subdirectory or a subdomain or something like that in the US. Google Analytics. All right, this is. Oh my God, that wasn't even scripted or planned. Oh, you guys are awesome. All right, okay, sorry. I'm just like living out my nerd fantasy right now. Yes, we are awesome. Okay, Google Analytics is Universal Analytics is going to be depreciated from 2023, and they're basically saying to everyone, sorry, but GA4. Now, a lot of you guys will have looked at GA4 and looked at like, the different layouts and thought, where is just acquisition? Where is it? Oh my God, organic traffic, where is it? Yeah, exactly. Like just basic stuff, right? Like it's just a little bit, it's just different. It's new. And look, when I went and had a look at this, I really was trying to find something that I could kind of like get into and like, yeah, exactly. Pretty much take as a positive. From my perspective, there is like a cool way to be able to look at behavioral analytics in a lot more detail. That's kind of neat. That's kind of cool. But for like a just general top level thing, it's just weird. So for me, I'll be honest, like I have looked at this and put this in my God, when I'm feeling really, really depressed about life, I will properly go through this. And I'm in the process at the moment of just sending through emails to a lot of my clients saying like, hey, this is going to happen. You don't have GA4 set up, but we're going to have to. I can do this for you. You can do this if you want. Here's all the instructions. Great. But I will actually take this to Mr. Dan Wild.
Oh, yes, that's me. Hello.
Because Dan Wild is again one of our members on the board, but he is also an absolute gun at Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, and all things.
Yeah,
so
you
I'd
guys
love to
think
hear
you're
your
all
thoughts.
nerds. Anyway, I'm going to teach you guys something really quickly first. This is how you lose the respect of everybody in a room in one sentence. GA4 will be better than UA. It will be. It is not at the moment. So GA4 has gone through a lot of changes in the last month and a bit. It is much harder to deal with. It's much harder to find information. It is much harder to get information in there. But once you do so, it is better for analysis. And that, I believe, there's a lot of different reasons for it. Yeah, I know I've ruined everything. I'm so sorry, guys.
No.
And if you ask me, by the way, if I have GA4 set up, I don't. like fundamentally, because also like it's very hard to set up and I've got only so many hours in the day. But an appropriate tracking plan needs to be in place to make that happen, guys. Because at the end of the day, moving to an events-based analytics tool means you will get more information. You are using more events. You have more ability to get detailed individual analysis, which is very strange given that all the privacy concerns which are going around, right? So it's an interesting take on Google's side. I have a lot of other opinions which I won't share now about GA. I'm happy versus UA. I'm still firmly in the camp. UA right now is better than GA4, but it's not always going to be the case. And I think it's very important out of particularly SEOs who are used to change. This is an area where we have a great opportunity to champion a change, which actually will make a difference. Peter, I'm going to run to you. Oh, you have a question? Yes, go for it. No way. So the question was, will they stick to the timeline? I'll just ask you guys, how long did it take to deprecate legacy tools for webmasters, right? How long did it take for smart shopping campaigns to change? I know, PPC in an SEO conference. Oh, no. Boo. But no, like Google is very bad at sticking to these timelines because at the end of the day, they are a business. And yes, they don't get a hell of a lot of money out of GA or UA. But fundamentally, keeping users happy is important to them. So they will definitely take some time to get there, I would imagine. So I reckon probably 3-6 months, depends on the outcry, but it will eventually happen. And it is probably worth a couple of seconds extra of load just to get a data stream going, guys. I don't see them creating a tool that will actually transfer all the data across. So be ready for that. Questions? Yeah, Mel. Excellent.
If you're running Google Ads, whether it's pushback or not, it's not just setting up GA4. You get the conversions in.
Yep.
Consider whether to put them in Google Ads. Have you got a remarketing list? Have you got audiences? If you want historical data for any period of time, we're encouraging everyone. I'm with everyone. I don't know about that. And Carolyn's helping time like I don't know.
Tough job, Carolyn.
Carolyn's doing God's work.
Carolyn's the most hardest working person in the room now.
Yeah. Naturally, yeah.
They really mess things up. So now's the time to get that set up, but also review what you've got. How many goals in Google Analytics are a huge mess. So we're trying to do a positive, like clean it up.
Yeah, it's a chance to spring clean it. No, naturally. So I'm gonna recap that for the live stream. Is that it's a chance for people who are on UA now to move to GA for slowly, but you have to acknowledge that if you're using GA for conversion tracking, particularly if you're importing it in for Google Analytics or whatever tracking tools you're using currently, you do need to think of a method. That's where I'll do a quick plug for Tag Manager. Makes it a little bit easier, but actually makes it a lot easier, to be honest. But yeah, I fully agree, Mel. It sucks that we have to move from something that's so integrated. But just remember, Google will probably release the integration a month or two after they stop using UA. Sorry, they'll probably integrate that later, knowing them. So just be ready for that change. Yeah, sure. Correct. Correct. So you got a full year.
we've got. So that's something that someone needs to decide how we're all going to deal with that if you're downloading data.
Yeah, and watch the European Union be the main person to decide that for us, because so that was about how far back we can look. So there will be a lot of things around that. So much of it is up in the air, but it's going to be a big change, guys, but an exciting one nonetheless.
Jury's still out. All right, we'll go to the next one because there's so many thoughts and we'll probably like dissect that maybe at a later date. Page experience rollout for desktop is completed on the 4th of March. My big overarching thing is, honestly, like when the mobile first, with mobile like page experience rollout went through, I was concerned about mobile first indexing because when you're looking at, and there's awesome tools out there to be able to look at this, when you're looking at the code versus how it's been laid out for the mobile version versus the desktop version, if they were different, they would probably look at the mobile version because mobile first, mobile friendly. And that's kind of like how like a lot of search engines are thinking like, well, this is the future. This is how people are looking at this stuff. So if there are variances of that, then maybe we're going to completely ignore that. Cut to like all the sites that have got m dot subdomains. Couple of few, but I won't call them out right now. But again, now that like the page experience rollout for desktop is now here and it's all there, I guess like a little bit more credence to this. My kind of like overarching takeaway, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like everyone was just like hyper focused on mobile, and they were like, go desktop sort of thing. So we're gonna like have like an update just to like roll it out and just basically say like, look, this is still like a factor because look at your Google Analytics. Well, your UA right now. Most of the users are from a desktop for a lot of my clients. So like, please don't forget about that. Please still think about like the desktop experience of that. So that's kind of like my thoughts on maybe why they've like done that, but that's really a personal opinion. Boom. Next one. Wait. Yeah, I can click. Cool. I'm just like really conscious of time. What we've got time for. Yeah. I'm gonna just talk maybe a little bit about like the Search Console like update for the connector in Data Studio. It's so awesome. I've been playing around with it. I even like tweeted out a little bit of joy about it. But you can be able to look at like Google Discover News and things like that in Data Studio and bring all of this stuff into real time rather than have to like go into Search Console and have a look at this and be able to do that. There's so much more flexibility with what Google Data Studio can be able to offer you and be able to provide. So it's actually really cool. I feel like it's a little bit young in its rollout because I'm not really seeing what I think is everything, but that's just me. But I really love that they're starting to really roll out these tools and make them a lot more accessible to be able to do that. Hands up here who use Data Studio. Cool. So we got about maybe 45 to 50% split of the room. That's pretty good. Data Studio is pretty awesome, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. New updates, love it.
Oh, got a question.
Yo.
Do you have any templates or any good examples of that being used that you can look at?
Templates, I kind of build my own. Yeah. But it's kind of like, well, what's the problem? What am I trying to solve? How am I going to display it? And then think about like, all right, like for them, like I might look at like customer like segments and look at this and like look at how like they're like the traffic going to like those specific type of segments and look at like the blogs as well and kind of look at like what that's actually happening. So it's kind of a little bit more client specific that I'm building literal custom dashboards for that if they really want that. There are so many awesome Data Studio templates out there, to be really honest though. You just kind of have to look for them. Sorry. Aleta Solus has a really great resource for this, like a whole page of results for different types of like ones that you can use for templates. I've used a couple. There's ones you can use with Search Console, which is pretty awesome. It's almost like an internal trend analysis tool that if it like increases over like 3 days, like by a certain percentage, like it'll actually populate as like, oh, this keyword in here might be trending. It's pretty sick, dude. Like, you know, having that really awesome to be able to set up. It's super easy as well. Because we all like, you know, easy, accessible things. So for templates, that's probably like the thing that I look to look at new stuff. But yeah, sorry, I don't mean to call you out. I built my own. Yeah, fair.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, Peter. If it's a tip.
Oh, we
Tip
got
for
a
the
hot
live
tip for
stream. Here we
Data
go.
Studio.
Tip for the live stream. So if you're going to connect to a data source, instead of connecting directly to the Google Search Console API, you can actually make it a form called extract data. And what it does is that you basically set a kind of like a cron job, like once a day, it'll extract the data. And if you ever notice that if you have a fancy Data Studio template, but slow as a dog, this will make it like 1,000 times faster, because essentially instead of every single time you make a change to a filter and stuff, you're querying the API. Instead of doing that, you're actually kind of working with a local data source, and it makes it way faster. And because Google Search Console data doesn't update like very quickly, it updates like 3 days behind or 2 days behind or whatever. It's a way better way to work with the data, and you will stop pulling your hair out if you ever had a slow Data Studio template.
I keep looking at a colleague of mine, Alex, like where like our Data Studio reports crash because they're like we're dealing with data way too massive. Yeah. Well, BigQuery is awesome. I love using that with log file analysis, but I digress. We'll move on. All right. Look, new recycling attributes to business profiles. Google My Business. Yeah. New, shiny, like why not? Rebrands.
They remove the app of Google My Business, and they say Google My Business are inside of the Google Maps app.
There you go.
Yeah. That's a
I didn't
fairly
actually know that
succinct
happened.
answer.
So that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, that is cool. Sweet. Thanks, dude.
How many SEOs actually do with Google My Business now? We're all like, wow, I didn't know that.
Cool. Next, Google launches the new Merchant Center Insights tool for free listings and trusted store badges. At the moment, this is only really in the US. So Google Merchant Center has had a lot of updates, like so many that we've actually created a spreadsheet just to kind of go through like some qualifying things of like, does this exist? Almost like a flowchart. Yeah, we'll maybe like that's a whole separate thing, but that's really, really cool to be able to look at that stuff. Who here uses that? If you don't, yeah. Google Merchant Center.
Imagine Google
Yeah.
flip-flopping on something, right?
Oh
Imagine
my
that.
God.
Goodness me. Not my Google. No.
If you guys don't know about this, I'm just going to really touch on this quickly, just because I know there's a couple in here that might be working in e-commerce, who might be a little bit new, and I've seen some really lovely new faces in the room as well. Google Merchant Center is really awesome for both paid and for SEOs to be able to go in there and put in free and paid listings in the SERP. So this is we'll be able to have all kinds of other stuff, like all kinds of free listings. I'm alliterating a lot because I'm really conscious of time. But it is really cool. Just do a Google, and if you need help, just reach out to any one of us on Slack or on LinkedIn. Cool. Google Business Profile updates, documentation, adding your in-store products to your business profile using Pointy. Oh, I looked into Pointy last month, but I've forgotten everything about it because I don't use it. That's cool.
You guys can read that later.
Yeah.
We'll show you where to read all about Pointy. If only there was a newsletter. Exactly
Yeah.
right, Peter.
Which we will go to right now. So what a segue. It's like it was almost created, even though I went through a couple of slides. Look, sorry guys, we have a bit of a tight agenda. I want to be able to get to Matt's wonderful presentation, but all of this news is coming out on the reg, on the daily, from Too Long Didn't Read Marketing, TLDR It's free. You can sign up. It goes straight to your inbox, and it literally just filters out all of the main things that are happening. So if you're wanting to stay ahead of the game, look at this stuff and just be like, cool, I might spend 15 minutes of my day just like cycling through this, clicking on a couple of things, doing a quick read. You're going to be probably the most informed person in the room, and it is awesome. Love that. Without further ado, I would love to invite our wonderful guest, Matt Hodgson, to the stage. as he's going to share with us some really, really wonderful insights that he has from his experience.
Thank you. Good evening. That's not me. Has everyone seen Wolf of Wall Street? Yeah, cool. Who here's in sales? Yeah, cool. Who's used SimilarWeb? Yeah, nice. Who's used SEMrush? Get out. No, joke. I'll tell you why shortly. So my name is Matt. Previously, I was country manager for SimilarWeb for 3 and a bit years. Just recently, I've started up my own performance agency, which is called Bring Performance. I've been lucky enough in the past 25 years to work with some awesome brands such as Hitwise and Telstra and BMW and WD-40. Actually, this is my Stephen Bradbury WD-40 story. 15 years ago, I was working for an agency in London and heading up the search there. And I was called into a meeting because WD-40 spent £15,000 or thereabouts on a website. And their website was, the purpose of the website was to provide their customers with all the different use cases for WD-40. Apparently there's hundreds of them. So I went into the meeting or before I went into the meeting, I had a look at the website, and this is 15 years ago. And the website was built out of Flash. Yeah. See, I'm still. This is my Stephen Bradbury bit, right?
I remember.
So the good news is I was able to go into WD-40 and tell them all the things that they need to do better. I was able to tell them they need to spend another £10,000 with my agency, and subsequently we rebuilt the website in HTML and off we went. So that's my SEO win for tonight, and that's it. All right. Shortly after I got out of SEO. So I'm going to try and get through this really quickly. Just talk about sort of sales and COVID, quick demo from SimilarWeb for you SEMrush people, and then a couple of stories, social selling, and then some questions if you have any. Who's got COVID? Someone's got COVID? How shit was it, right? Okay, we're probably sick of hearing about it. From a sales perspective, and particularly when selling a digital platform, as opposed to my friends at Shopify, when COVID hit, it actually was a real challenge for SimilarWeb, as I'm sure it was for various other platforms and customers. So to help us understand and help our customers understand the impact of COVID, what we did is we started to build out heat maps. And before I get into any more detail about this, does everyone know what SimilarWeb is? No? Cool. Some are saying yes, good. Some are saying no. I think the tagline for SimilarWeb is they're the measure for the digital world. Okay, so the short version is they see traffic, but I'll go into that in a bit more detail shortly. So what we did is we built out a series of heat maps to help us understand what industries dived and what industries started to flourish during, or particularly when COVID started to hit. And you can see that on the far right-hand corner. So the green, it's a pretty simple traffic light. I'm assuming we all understand how traffic lights work. Some of us still figuring that out, I noticed on the drive in. Green is good, right? So green is if there's an industry here that has green here, it means that their traffic's gone up year on year. Okay, so traffic in that industry has gone up significantly year on year, and you can see retail, pharmacy, supermarkets, everyone's buying their toilet paper, particularly when COVID started to hit, right? So we use this for one of two things. One, to help us as a sales team identify who not to call, right? Don't call auto markets, probably not real estate and careers. Leave you guys alone. There's a careers guy. There you are. But also what we did, and this is really cool about data, right? And using data as a sales tool. is that we use this to open the door, right? It's really hard for us salespeople in the room, and I assure you attest to this, it's really hard for us to get a conversation with the right prospect, right? It's hard to just pick up the phone and go, hey, I'm Matt from Bring. I don't know you from Bar of Soap, and they just hang up on you. Using data to open the door has been really powerful, and I've learned a lot in the past 3 years as to how to use data to open the door. Providing value to a prospect, be it via an email or LinkedIn, just sending them something that relates to their industry is super, super powerful. And we use stuff like this, real macro sort of stuff, to open the door and start to talk to those prospects. We didn't, however, do any work with the travel industry. Now, this is a bit of a challenge for us because travel for the platform was a big industry for us, a big vertical for us. And you can see really quickly here, and again, this is some of the reporting we built out to help us understand and our customers understand the impact of COVID. As soon as it hit, traffic to the travel sector across a variety of just about all industry or all markets dropped. Okay, you can see us, I think we're here, Australia and New Zealand, that little the yellow guy here dropped, and then it's slowly starting to pick up now. Okay, so using these sort of insights was super powerful for us to understand who to reach out to and also open the door. Retail, you guys killed it. I think some JB Hi-Fi and some other punters in here. So retail, we can see here that that's gone absolutely gangbusters. I'm sure you sort of, is that some of your fancy work, was it, Pete? Or no? So moving on. So why do I talk to you about SimilarWeb now? And I'm a big advocate of the platform. I'm not going to sell the product to you. I'd love to. I'm still negotiating that with SimilarWeb at the moment. But I've been in the industry now for 25 years, and there's so many tools out there. I've used quite a lot of them. I use SEMrush. I use Ahrefs. Okay. I use SimilarWeb. All right. There's not one tool to solve one problem or many problems. But what I want to do is just quickly explain to you why SimilarWeb is SimilarWeb and where it sort of fits with respect to search in particular. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about this, but essentially the short version of SimilarWeb is it sees traffic, okay? It doesn't rely on ranking data, all right? The core or the foundation of SimilarWeb data is anonymized behavioral data, which is traffic. And it's pulling that data from various different sources, browsers, networks, etc. And then what they do with that data is they clean it, get rid of all the shit, and then they apply their own algorithm across the top of that. Okay, so is it when you run a report in SimilarWeb, which I'm going to do in a second, and you look at a particular country filter, which will be Australia, it's representative of that, representative of that population in the country. Okay, so what you're seeing is representative of population, and it's also like for like. Okay, so for example, we might look at a website and say, oh, well, that doesn't match my Google Analytics. Okay, it doesn't match your Google Analytics and never will, but it's using SimilarWeb measurement algorithm, and therefore what you're looking at side by side will match. So if you look at two different websites side by side, it's going to match. How's this going to work? Nick? Now I've put my glass on.
So we're going to just go to exit.
Intermission music.
Yeah.
Girl from Ipanema goes walking. When she dances, the men she passes goes. Ah. Baritone. Beautiful. Better than my falsetto, I would say.
You. Don't go away, because I'm going to jump back to the slide deck. Now, I'm going to try and sort of hop. I don't know how I'm going to do this, actually. Really quickly, this is SimilarWeb. All I want to show you right now, there's so many different bits and pieces in the platform. The mind boggles. It's a bit of a Pandora's box. But really quickly, if I'm going to do something around search, take, for example, let's do this. Just to help you understand how the data works. Pointing it at a new site, and I encourage you to do this with other tools, but pointing SimilarWeb at a new site, and if we want to look at their keywords. And I want to choose their weekly keywords. So now I can see all the trending weekly. Point this at Reddit. That's pretty interesting. But I can see all the trending weekly keywords that are driving traffic, right? This isn't ranking data. It's traffic data to news.com.au. Number 1 and number 2. Was it PR? What was it? Is it rehearsed? No. So this is actually a really interesting and a powerful use case or powerful example to help you understand sort of how SimilarWeb works. We can see, or the software can see, weekly keywords that drive traffic to a particular website. All right. Again, this isn't ranking data. There are some other metrics in here, such as position data, SERP features, etc. But it's not ranking data. This is traffic data and it's weekly data. Okay. I'll jump back to that slide deck.
So I'm just going cuss, and then I'm just like stopping it.
And then restarting.
Putting it again with the scenes.
Cool.
Yes. Kitchen.
Okay. Oh, that's all right. We'll get through it. Paint and sand. Cool. Any Kiwis in the room? Oh shit. So, yeah. I'm not even joking. Like I said, it's really difficult to get a meeting with someone, right? Very, very difficult to get a meeting with someone. Last year, we did a big push for publishers, okay? So we're successful selling into Fox News and News Corp and Stuff and various other publishers. We were lucky enough to get an audience with a New Zealand publisher who I won't name. And obviously we're during COVID, we're in lockdown, and we've got, dogs farting when we're on calls and nude kids running through and all that sort of stuff. And I'm on this call with one of the sales guys, and we're talking to this New Zealand publisher. And about halfway through the call, I hear something. Does anyone have a guess what I hear? Yeah. I'm just going to ignore that. This is, it's not right. You need to. I don't know this person. I haven't built up the rapport yet. I can't make cheap jokes. I said, all right, sorry guys, we got to stop this. I said, is that a sheep in the background? And he said, yes, there's a sheep in the background. I kid you not. We're talking to one of the largest New Zealand publishers in New Zealand, and he has a sheep in the background. Does anyone, other than yourself, appreciate the irony of that? Now I'm going to quickly jump and do one more screen. Has anyone got something that or anyone want to shout out something that you'd like me to look at in SimilarWeb? No? Okay, cool. One last example of SimilarWeb. I'll show you what's called the keyword seasonality. So awesome for content ideation. And I'm going to tie this up too and just help you understand where we use SimilarWeb for SEO as opposed to for other SEO tools. If we look at, say, travel and tourism. Forward. Super handy for content, okay? So to build out and help you build out that content strategy, what you can do using the software is jump into the channels piece, look at keyword seasonality, and then look at a particular industry. And when my report loads, it's going to show you all the seasonal trending keywords within a particular industry. Okay, so to help you build out that 12-month content strategy for us content writers in the room. All right, so we can see here, and you'll see here that we're looking at both branded and non-branded, but we can see, for example, Airbnb Melbourne, right? Airbnb Melbourne trends on the 1st, the 10th and the 12th of the year. We've got Gold Coast accommodation, so you can start to see all these trending terms and when they start to peak. And this is based on traffic or intent, okay? So again, I know we talk about intent looking at the search terms and to help identify intent. My version or this version of intent is people are clicking through on those search terms. That's their version of intent. Okay. So we can see here, for example, Werribee Zoo or flights to Melbourne from Sydney flight tracker. So using this as a macro view to help you build out a content strategy based on what's driving traffic over a particular period of time. It's the months where they're obviously always driving traffic, but these are the months where they peak.
So in the summer months, budget truck rental is like for moving houses. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why it would peak.
Yeah, yeah. You'll also find budget truck rentals probably peaking then because everyone's getting out of Melbourne.
So this is year on year as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm trying to figure out why Werribee Zoo in April last year.
Probably Easter holidays. Yeah. Don't know. We can then, so what we would do to better understand that is we can click through on that keyword and then build out a keyword group to identify what. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is this based on organic only? Or, for example, if we had a big campaign in May, would that pick it up?
That's actually a good question. This is organic only. Okay.
And is it year on year or like just 1 year?
This is 1 year. This data here is 1 year.
But it's not over the past 5 years.
No. Sorry? Not for a specific year, not yet. I'm assuming that's something which is coming. I don't know. Yeah. But it's a new norm. New norm. Yeah. Cool. I'm not gonna jump to another screen because that's just annoying. Just another thing which I learned during my times selling is so turn off notifications. You know when you get the notification on your turn it off when you're going on a sales presentation. This was a few years ago now. I was presenting to some quite senior. My life, I'll present to sort of see like your CMOs of the world, sort of your ASX, so CMOs of the world. Managed to get a meeting. There's about 5 or 6 people. Telstra and Sensors at the time. It's getting a meeting with 6 people in one room is like herding cats. Got the meeting. Before I was going in, I was on the phone to a mate of mine having a fairly colourful conversation. It was probably about Collingwood. And walked into the meeting, set up, got my laptop sorted, had this going. I'm like, right, cool. Yeah, I was looking pretty good at the time. I was about 5-10 minutes through the presentation. A mate of mine sent me a text message and called me an F and C. I think there was an S word in there as well. Room full of 6 people. I had to stop. I was like, look, guys, we all probably saw that, did we? And they're like, yeah, we saw that. And I said, you want to talk about it? I said, no, but clearly you're a Collingwood supporter. I said, yes. And we moved on. Didn't get the sale. One last thing I think I'll share with you, and then we'll open up to any other questions, is LinkedIn. I mean, you guys using LinkedIn as a tool to, yeah? Okay. In the past, particularly in the past 3 years, I've found LinkedIn as an amazing sales tool. And it's not a hard sell tool. It's not a tool where don't connect with someone and then, tell them how amazing your SEO agency is. But what I did find is that LinkedIn is a really good tool to add value and just to overall build your profile. I'm sure Pete loves receiving all my LinkedIn posts. And to give you an example of that, so we were pitching to a large investment firm, and the deal was worth about sort of $70,000 US for the year for a subscription to the software. And we were negotiating for about, let's call it 3 or 4 weeks, and it fell over and lost the deal, which was somewhat frustrating. And then a week later, I thought, you know what? And I often post things on LinkedIn, and when I post things, it's not about sort of success or anything. It's just ultimately about, you know, insights around, oh, did you see that Airbnb was trending over blah, 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 blah. So I posted something on LinkedIn, and I tagged the prospect on LinkedIn and said, hey, look, I just thought you might find this interesting. The following day, he calls me. The next week, we ended up signing that deal. So lost the deal, posted some value or some additional value on LinkedIn, and closed the deal the next week. And that was call it a $70,000 US deal. So, and that's a pretty extreme example. However, using LinkedIn as a tool to provide value is amazing, and I encourage you to do it. But know your audience. Yeah, don't post add value. You know, don't post about you. Post about sort of some interesting trends you're seeing, or around, you know, the new search console and how you can better use that. Okay, but I can't encourage you enough. It's been it's an amazing tool, and I use it quite a lot. Some key takeaways: mute your sheep before you get on a call. Turn off your fucking messages before you jump in a sales meeting. Use LinkedIn, share insights, and add value. And lastly, so SimilarWeb, it's not an SEO tool. All right, so don't think it's an SEO tool, because it isn't. It's a digital intelligence tool. Use SEMrush or use Ahrefs, but use SimilarWeb to understand traffic and understand keywords that drive traffic. Okay, use it to identify content opportunities. Let the SEO tools do the rest of the work. That's it. Any questions?
Questions?
Nah, but I've been sort of presenting myself.
The streamer's got the presentation, so if you do want to look at it, you can go back and do that. There's some good
awesome,
quality.
There's some awesome memes.
There's
in there.
good memes in there, mate. I was going to say, lack of gifts though. Odd
Particularly
choice.
The last one.
Guys, do we have any questions at all? Oh yeah. Let me come over, because I feel bad for the stream, the people. So if we can run it, we'll run it.
When I'm using SimilarWeb, I Google like all these local Australian websites, but they often don't have enough search volume to be able to get any results coming up.
Yeah.
Do I need to pay something to get that, or?
Yeah, you got to pay me.
And then just pay, and then it'll come up, or is it just that there's just not enough search?
No,
in
look,
those areas?
from a I hope no one from Similar was listening. From a similar perspective, you know, we're little old Australia, okay, and that's a global platform, right? So the reality of it is that's the reality, right? The way that Similar works is that they threshold websites. So if there's visits less than 5,000 a month, you know, it's threshold, right? And you might get some data, but you may not. And ultimately, it's a trend analysis tool. So you need some data to then build out those trends. If you're plugging in a website that is not receiving any traffic, or SimilarWeb's not seeing any traffic, it's not that it's all lost and that there's nothing you can do with the tool. It's what's the, you know, are you selling shoes or jackets or, you know, table tennis tables, and therefore what are the opportunities you can pull out of SimilarWeb to then build out an SEO content strategy to then build traffic to that website.
So then basically, if it's not so much to look at what that specific website is driving as traffic, it's more, let's start looking at what the industry traffic and find a bigger version of that, say, website, and then start looking at what's happening. Because I've always looked at this and gone, no, I specifically want to know what this website's doing versus like the industry trends. But it sounds to me like it's just traffic at the end of the day, and the bigger fish is probably going to drive better quality data anyway than a smaller fish.
Yeah, and look, you can learn from that. You know, ultimately you learn from, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's even the big fish. There's, you know, some very small websites that, you know, still are present in the data, but ultimately, you know, you're there to grow traffic to a site. You know, you're not there to drive traffic to a site. So that's where you use the tool.
I got a question.
Go for it.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is around, I guess, how if you guys are like a trend tool, does SimilarWeb have plans to start to really transform from maybe like a keyword to an answer engine type thing, where you're looking at entities and confidence scores around that entity for your brands?
I don't know. However, what I can tell you is that particularly over the past 3 years that I've been involved in it, the platform has evolved significantly, and the roadmap is absolutely ridiculous. What they are striving to do to increase engagement is to build out and pull out a lot of insights. So bring a lot of insights to you as the user. However, those insights are purely based on performance, right? So purely based on, right, well, this click has gone to this website and we think it's because of X, Y, and Z. It's not going to any sort of, I guess, suggestions that the tool's going to provide you are suggestions based off traffic. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does, because like without like an external input, it really doesn't sort of qualify whether it is or isn't relevant. But that being said, like even just to look at what it does rank for and what drives traffic and things like that, like having like a greater understanding of how it taps into like the core central form of truth with how to, like, search engines look at things, like with you like using that's wiki data or something like that.
That's where you would use. They may, but I think you'll find that with SimilarWeb, there's still a pretty clear line from like an SEO sort of suggestions and those, like there's certain things that SEO tools are really good at. They may eventually, like obviously tools like SEMrush are always on the radar for SimilarWeb, but I don't know. It's probably the best answer for you.
Yeah, no, fair.
Yeah.
And maybe just because you did talk about SEMrush, so one of the things that they've done is, one, increase like their keyword pool, but also really introduce keyword intents, which I don't know about you guys, have settled some debates a little bit in the office when they're sort of like seasonal or bridging on the gap, because they do change over time. Is this something that SimilarWeb's also willing to integrate or to solve as a company?
So is it keyword
intents?
Intent?
Yeah.
You'll find that, what's your version of keyword intent?
Well, keyword intent like split down into like the 4 main categories of like informational, commercial, navigational, and transactional.
Yeah. You'll already get that out of SimilarWeb. So that's got my name.
It's on your slides, if that's helpful.
Slide, yeah.
Sorry.
So to give you an example of that, so for example, what you do is you build out like a keyword group, right? So we might build out, I don't know, Melbourne Zoo keyword group. I just realized I wasn't talking to this properly. Once you build out that keyword group, you can then isolate all the sites, or you can see all the sites that are getting traffic for that, and quite granular down to, I think, the last 28 days. Once you then see that, you can then isolate whether it be a transactional or content site. So, for example, if it's transactional and you just want to know what the sort of top of funnel stuff, what are people wanting to learn about Melbourne Zoo before they actually transact with Melbourne Zoo, hypothetically, get rid of all the transaction sites and you can see all those content sites and the actual content that's driving that traffic. So that's where they're at the moment, to better identify the intent, but ultimately the intent's going to come from the click as well.
Yeah.
So that's where they're at the moment. I don't know if there's any sort of further product developments. I'm cut out of the loop at the moment. There we go.
Yeah.
I resigned. So yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think I'm just kind of being a little bit cheeky and being like, yeah, before you go, like, what's the future for SimilarWeb? Because it's the same kind of questions I would ask like any SaaS tool out there. Like, we're really seeing a massive shift from keywords to answer engines, and how we as like as a think tank, as a group, how we're looking to like tackle this, like to break it down into really, really easable, manageable, chunkable things to be able to influence for clients. And there are tools out there. Oh, I just spit all over this mic. Sorry. There are tools out there that do measure this stuff. It's just not like, it's like not really like the user experience isn't great at the moment. And so, for like, more developed SaaS tools and things like that, like it was 2014, it was from Freebase. Now we're using Wikidata. Like these things are becoming so much more advanced. So yeah, I'm just like curious, like from a SaaS perspective, how they're looking to leverage the changes in search engines for their tools to help like us SEOs do better jobs with meeting this change.
I guess also one thing to consider, and I'm not, this isn't an answer for you, but one thing to consider is that everything that's within, particularly SimilarWeb, I can only talk about SimilarWeb, is it's effectively pulled from, it's the user. So it's the actual user that's driving that data. So it's, it's you that's clicking through on that keyword and you're going to that website. So for example, questions, and to give you an example, so one thing that they've been doing and spending a lot of time on more recently is on platform or on-site search. So obviously you've got, search drive to the Bunnings, for example, and then what are people doing when they're actually on Bunnings? So that's one thing that they, and particularly travel is a big thing at the moment, and Amazon and on-site behaviors on Amazon. So trying to complete that picture from, search, Google, through to Amazon, and then what are they actually doing on Amazon? So that's one of the things that's a big focus. I don't know if that sort of helps answer your question. No, they don't scrape. So both, it's not jump shot data. No. It's a good question. So you've got your URLs that load in your browser. The simple way of explaining this is that that's effectively called clickstream. So SimilarWeb sees those URLs load in your browser. Okay, so because they see those URLs in your browser's obviously gone to that page. So it's very different to scraping. Scraping, it's basically, if you scrape the website, you're kind of becoming the internet again, right? Whereas using clickstream is you're only pulling in where a browser or where a device goes to. So because you can see, Amazon's somewhat tricky because of the way they structure the URLs, but let's take eBay, for example, it's a little bit easier. You go to eBay and you go to, I don't know, home and entertainment. I don't know if that's even a category. And then you go to DVD players and then Sony, right? So that's typically passed in the URL. SimilarWeb sees all that. Okay. And then what they'll do is they'll obviously apply their own algorithm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can get search queries out of that and a whole bunch of other cool stuff.
Any other questions for Matt? No. Well, I'd like to personally thank Matt. I've known him for a fair few years now, actually.
Well, you're my grandfather.
I won't talk about that relationship.
Thanks, Dad.
So please thank Matt and. Nick, did you want to also jump up?
Ring. Yeah. Probably should.
Just give us the 1 minute.
Yeah. Don't go to the website because there isn't even a website yet. Like I said, I resigned 6 weeks ago. So I finished my role 6 weeks ago. Why I resigned, and just a really quick story as to why I did that. Particularly over the past probably 6 to 8 months, we identified that there's a massive shortage of resources. Okay, so people like you are hen's teeth. Okay, we were selling SimilarWeb, loved it, so many use cases, but just the industry just didn't have the capacity to actually use the data. So for various reasons, I resigned. I've started Bring. Bring is a digital performance agency. We use SimilarWeb data. For obviously performance, search, paid as well, display, social, and also provide data and insights using that sort of data. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Everybody, Matt Hodgson, thank you so much. Woo, 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 woo. Awesome. Thank you so much. So that really is the main part of what we're talking about here. I'm going to just go back, and I don't really have, all right. If I do the thing where it does the thing, I'm going to take it back to this cast, stop cast, and then recast. Then it's going to just go back to the title thing. Yeah, I did it. I did it. Awesome. So I just kind of like want to just touch on something really, really briefly, because it's something I'm pretty passionate about. Like it's just like, keywords versus topics. I'm going to just talk about this a little bit as just because I'm a nerd and because I've got your attention, because you're kind of like forced to be here for a little bit. So just as like a closing, like maybe thought piece. So you might see this on Search Engine Journal. You might see this on Search Engine Roundtable. You might read this from a lot of blogs and a lot of things like this. My thoughts is that for Australian marketing, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball here. Why I can say this is because I really, really love what I do. I really love like talking about this and thinking about this. And, people like Peter Mead, I look up to like insanely. And there's so many other SEOs all around the globe who are really pushing the envelope of what SEO is as an industry, as a profession, as a passion. And I kind of like want to just really, really talk about this really quickly. So traditionally, you'd crawl the internet and you find out what all the pages mean, and where they should be ranked for search, right? We've been doing this for forever. And how we would be able to do that would be to look at keywords. So if you like search for like washing machine repairer, you look at the content on the page. So SEOs would, look at that around washing machines as possible, and how we used to be able to do that. Google historically in 2014, I mentioned this really briefly before, it was all using like Freebase. So now it moved from Freebase to Wikidata, which is essentially like a massive encyclopedia of how things are classified, how things work, and like a lot of its understanding of how the world works. Is this a perfect way? Debatable. We've literally gone at length and debated this, but it's kind of what Google is using as its central point of truth. Now, Dixon Jones is another really, really incredible SEO who knows way more about this than I do. Dawn Anderson is another incredible SEO that knows way more about this than I do. Will Slosky, another incredible SEO that knows way more than this than I do. But again, I love to geek out about this stuff. So if you really want to know more, those 3 names, go and like Google that stuff and really, really about this, because Bill Scorsese is looking at patents around this and how it's changing. Dawn Anderson literally is a data scientist who is also an SEO who researches about this. And Dixon Jones was like the OG for Majestic SEO, which is how links were first really, really like measured and understood. Plus, he now has InLinks, which is an amazing, incredible internal link tool, which dynamically just adds internal links because they're super important, guys. They're so cool. So just going back to that, this is really Google's play at bringing its understanding and the semantic web into modern search engines. Now, what does that kind of mean? So Google's trying to show how they practically apply it, like via its understanding of like the marketing funnel. So like we'll see this stuff, we'll go maybe to like business school or marketing school or whatever. I didn't go to any of these. I'm completely self-taught, just an FYI. I used to be an engineer. But the marketing funnel of the discovery of pre-purchase and all the way to post-purchase. That's kind of what we understand, right? Well, so does Google. Google's literally looking at this and like, well, this is how we want to be able to reverse engineer this to be able to look at how we can understand the web, right? So search journeys, they look at the context and it uses that knowledge to show users the content that is most relevant to where they are in their journey rather than simply giving them an answer to a question. That's really, really powerful. Now just think about that for a second. we used to go from keywords and you would have keyword stuffing and all that other stuff. And then in 2013, we had Google Hummingbird that like literally is looking at these things and transforming the way that search engines are actually looking at how we understand language. Now, like what we can be able to do is look at things in a little bit of a different way. Keywords are a really good kind of litmus tool because they kind of tell us some information about, you know, where we are and how we're understood and all that other stuff. But in a broader sense, this is just one part of a microcosm of its understanding of us as entities. It's grouping us into all kinds of other stuff around who we are. The brand is an entity. Your products are an entity. The information around that is all kind of like in this cluster. Like if you think like an atom, right? You've got your nucleus, your protons. God, this is really good. Take me back to chemistry. But in the middle of that, that is like the core understanding of what that is. And all around that, all the electrons that kind of buzz around that, that's kind of like its understanding of this topic. Now, how much of that topic do you as a business own? How much of the conversation do you command? We want to, as SEOs, when we're working with brands and things like that, we want to own as much of the conversation as possible. Because again, it's about the search engine journey. It's about the customer journey throughout this entire funnel. So if we're able to really be able to map this out, be able to look at this, we can now be able to have qualifiers around the confidence score of how we can be able to be seen for this. And that is a feature of SEO. Woo-hoo! Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for hearing me. My name is Nik Ranger. This is Peter Mead. That is Peter Machinkovich over there. That is Dan Wild. Yeah, you're going to be all the shout outs. We are SEO Collective. We are a nonprofit agency. We're a nonprofit organization. Sorry. We're a nonprofit organization that is just here really just out of the goodness of our hearts to be able to communicate all the changes and about our industry that we are so passionate about. We love what we do. We want to share with what we do, be able to educate, be able to help, and, you know, just like, you know, have good vibes. Good vibes. Thank you so much. And if you are listening online, please hit that like, please hit that subscribe and the notification bell for all the updates. Guys, this has been SEO Collective for April. Stay tuned because next month we got David Jones. We got Alex Carter, who was literally named as like the retail. Thank you. Oh, dude, with that like quick information. He is like one of the amazing like guys that makes David Jones work. I will look at his role title because he went from Petspiration Group to to David Jones, but he's a really, really awesome person who's so passionate about his role and about changing the face of David Jones for their future. And that's going to be really, really awesome for insights for next month as well. So we'll see you next month. Bye, guys.